Hey everybody, this is G here, and this is a video for solving equations, multi-step equations, or also solving equations using the distributive property. So first thing what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what the distributive property is, just a quick reminder, and then what we'll do is we'll start doing some examples of multi-step equations that involve the distributive property and combining like terms. So first, the distributive property is when we have a number that's being multiplied by a set of parentheses that has more than one term inside the parentheses. So, for example, right here I have 2 times x plus 3. So, because this 2 is directly next to this parenthesis, that means it's multiplication. And it's not just 2 times x because the parentheses over after this plus 3 part. So that means I need to take 2 and multiply it by all of x plus 3. So what we do is we do two separate things. We do 2 times x and 2 times 3. 2 times x, we can write that down as 2x. 2 times 3, we also write that down as 6. So 2 times x is 2x, 2 times 3 is 6, and it's positive 6, so I make sure I include that plus sign to show that this expression is equal to 2x plus 6. This is a simplified expression right here. Okay, I can't do anything with this particular problem, but what we can do is when we have an equation that looks like this with an equal sign and a value on the other side of the equal sign, now we can actually take that a step further, and now we can actually find out what x is. So what I can do is I can use my distributive property in order to help solve this equation and figure out what the value of x is. So a reminder, whenever we're solving equations, our goal is to always get the variable by itself. Okay, so in order to get the variable by itself, I need to get it by itself on this left side of the equal sign. I need to get rid of this -4, this 3, and this +2. Well, to get rid of this -4, there's actually two ways I can do it. So I'm going to show you two different ways to do this problem. The first way is I could use the distributive property, like what we just learned. I can take -4 and multiply it by 3x, and I can take -4 and multiply it by 2. -4 times 3x is -12x, because I have a negative times a positive. -4 times +2 is -8. And all of that's equal to 16. This hasn't changed yet. We haven't done anything with all of this. So what we did is we just got rid of this -4, and then we got rid of these parentheses to make it a much more simple equation. It looks like a two-step equation, which we have done in the past. And if you have not learned two-step equations, please stop this video now and go watch that, just so that we can make sure we know how to solve these. Because now from here, it's very, very simple. I want to get rid of my -12, get rid of my -8. To get rid of -8, we do the opposite, which is +8. And that's going to cancel it out. Whenever we always do the opposite so we can cancel things. And I need to do it to both sides. So I bring down this -12x. We haven't touched that yet. Nothing's happened with that. And that's all equal to 24. Now I have -12x is equal to 24. I divide by -12 because this is multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division, and the division will cancel it out. And whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other, and I'll get x equals positive divided by negative is -2. And I am done. There's my answer. If I wanted to check my work, I could take -2, plug it back into my original equation, and work it out to make sure that it equals 16. Let's do that. So I have -4 times 3 times -2 plus 2. And all of this should be equal to 16. Order of operation, I do my parentheses first, and I'll do my multiplication inside those parentheses. So I have -6 plus 2 times -4. -6 plus 2 is -4. So I have -4 times -4, which is +16, which is what I was looking for. I got it right. Another way to do this problem, I just want to show you guys real quick. There's two different possibilities. We can do this problem without actually doing the distributive property. So if you see an equation like this, if we remember, we're always doing the opposite operation when we're solving equations. And so I know I want to get rid of this -4. And what operation is this -4 performing? Is it's performing a multiplication. This is -4 times all of this. So really what I can do is I can divide everything by -4 on both sides, because division undoes multiplication. These cancel each other out. I'm left with 3x plus 2 equals 16 divided by -4 is -4. Now I can solve my normal two-step equation. Opposite of plus 2 is minus 2, which gives me 3x. This goes away, equals negative 6, divided by 3, x equals negative 2. I get the exact same answer, just a different way to do it. So this is how I do it without doing the distributive property. This way doesn't really work when you can't divide the answer, the solution on the right-hand side. When you can't divide this number, this constant, by whatever's being multiplied here. So say this was like a 17 instead. If I did 17 divided by 4, I would get a decimal or a fraction, and we don't like those. So then that's when I would use the distributive property. But because I know I can do 16 divided by 4, it makes this problem a little bit easier. Let's look at another one. Negative times 10 minus 4x equals 34. So this is like distributing the negative that we've learned in the past. So I have a negative in front of the parentheses, which means I need to distribute this negative to both pieces inside my parentheses. Okay, it's like having like a negative 1 here. So I have negative 1 times 10, which is negative 10. Negative 1 times negative 4x is positive 4x, and all that's equal to 34. Now we do the opposites to cancel things out and get the x by itself. So negative 10, in order to get rid of this constant of negative 10, I'm going to add 10, because the negative 10 plus 10 is 0, so it cancels, and I have to do it to both sides of the equal sign. I'm going to bring down this 4x because this hasn't changed. 34 plus 10 is 44. 4 times x, I need to divide by 4 because this is multiplication, so I need to do the opposite by dividing. Divided by 4, x equals 11. Okay. Another one. This one's got a couple different steps to it, but the process is the same. Okay, now I've got a 4x here, I've got a 2x here, so that's a little complicated. I've got x in two different places. But what we're going to end up doing is we're going to combine our like terms so that we only have one x. Okay, but first thing, before I can start combining like terms, is if we notice this 2x is inside these parentheses. I want to get rid of my parentheses first. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to do the distributive property. I'm going to do negative 3 times 2x, negative 3 times negative 3. So this 4x, we haven't done anything with that, so I'm just going to bring that straight down. Negative 3 times 2x is negative 6x. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. And all of that's equal to 9. This hasn't changed either. So all we did was simplify just this one piece, and I rewrote everything else. Okay, now I can go ahead and combine my like terms. I've got a 4x and a negative 6x. When I combine those, 4 minus 6 is negative 2. The x just follows along. Plus 9 is equal to 9. Okay. And then from here, I can solve. Subtract 9 from both sides. I get negative 2x. These cancel, is equal to 0. Divide by negative 2. X. These cancel, is equal to 0 divided by negative 2 is just 0. So x equals 0. Okay, one final example, okay, is, again, I want to use the distributive property to solve this. I've got a fraction now, and a lot of us freak out when we see these fractions. But what we're going to do with our fraction is we're going to use the distributive property. We're going to do the exact same thing we've done before, and we're going to distribute it to both pieces. So I'm going to have a negative 2/3 times negative 9. Well, I have 2/3 times 9. We're going to have to kind of do this work on the side here, and I'm going to get 18 over 3, and 18 divided by 3 is 6. Okay, so it becomes a whole number. So we just have to know how to multiply fractions. So 2/3 times 9 is positive 6x. 2/3 times 3, let's just show the work over here. Remember, with multiplication, you can just multiply straight across and then reduce in the end. You can also cross-reduce, and notice that we have a 3 and a 3 right here. These both cancel and just become 1. So now when I multiply, I just get 2 over 1, which is 2. So negative 2/3 times negative 3 is positive 2, and all that's equal to 21. So now a much, much easier problem to work with here. Let's subtract 2 from both sides. These cancel. I'm left with 6x equals 19 divided by 6, and I've got x equals, let's just leave it as 19 over 6. I don't really care if it's a decimal right now. I'm fine with just this improper fraction. That works because that gives me my answer. If we wanted to plug in 19 divided by 6 into a calculator, we can't get a decimal and round it to the nearest hundred. Okay? And that's it. So that's all I've got for you guys. So when we're solving equations that have the distributive property and that have multiple steps, just make sure we use the distributive property first, get rid of those parentheses, and then we can combine like terms. And then we have back to two-step equation we just solve regularly by doing the opposite in order to get our variable by itself. So I hope this video helped. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Thanks for watching.